Welcome to Decode, a podcast that delves into the complex world of K12 computer science education, highlighting the significance of storytelling in comprehending educational data.
Okay, good morning. We're here at the ASU+GSV conference in San Diego, and I'm here with Dr. Nicholas Wade from the Columbia Union School District, and we're at this conference. I call it the Davos of education because it's sort of like the World Economic Forum, where all of the influencers of education have come here, convened here together, and it's kind of crazy because I've been coming to this conference for quite a while, and it's a place where I bump into people that I'm normally close to, thousands of miles away, and it's just a place where there's a lot of work and business and good things that can get done. But just wanted to welcome you to the podcast and see if we can dig into some issues around AI, rural, just addressing student needs. And wanted to give you a chance to just a quick intro about you and your district.
Yeah, again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak with you. This is my third time here, and and I always appreciate not only just reconnecting with a bunch of people that I've been able to across the country, but really being able to kind of learn firsthand, success stories and lessons learned from other districts or other companies and partnering with others. So it's always been beneficial. I am a superintendent of what's considered a geographically disadvantaged district. Some would call it rural, but people might have definitions of rural depending where you're at, like the Midwest compared to California. But we are located in the Sierra Nevada foothills in California. We're in Gold Rush country. We're a single site, K8. We are almost about 500 students, and we're a small but mighty district. We're very proud of what we offer our students, our families, and our staff, and we find ourselves to be very much competitive, not just with those in our county and region, but even down what's considered down in the valley, which is the Modesto area.
Is there something that you don't like about the term rural, or is it, or you say geographically disadvantaged? I haven't heard that term before. Just being honest,
like in California,
what's the disadvantage of being where you are?
How it's been applied. So that was a new thing for me coming to California, and that was a term I've loosely heard, but never, I think, consistently applied. So to give you an idea, like my first administrative job as a high school assistant principal was in Winnebago, which is outside of Rockford, Illinois, and that was like 100 square miles, and you really had a gas station and a food mart, and that was pretty much it. So even though we are considered rural, but yet the whole county, there's almost 6,000 students, so most would consider that a medium size. We just have multiple LEAs or kind of breaking it apart.
Right.
But we still have access to a lot of hospitals, grocery stores, there's chains. I mean, we're not entirely cut off. It's really kind of where the geographically disadvantaged piece comes in. It's more tied to like funding, or let's say supports that may come from like the state level. Right.
Yeah, I'm really interested to dig into that a bit, because as I watch things from the outside, I've not been in a rural district or a geographically disadvantaged district in that way. But it's been quite a road of change, I think. We talk about the challenges of COVID, but what COVID gave us was almost everybody's one-to-one now with their computers and students. Everybody's got internet now, and so the kind of the impression that I had of rural districts in the past has been, well, there are these challenges with bandwidth and just isolation, but you're no longer isolated. Right. You're really connected with the world, and now we've got this whole world of AI technology, and so I'm curious to hear kind of your view of how that is changing your situation, and what the current challenges are, and what are the opportunities with all that. More importantly.
Well, I think there's plenty of opportunities for, small districts or rural, wherever it may be. I think those that maybe find themselves in a challenging situation in terms of like, let's say, expanding the learning opportunities for students, or kind of like really, I think, realizing some some especially college and career pathways. I think that's the big thing where, like, it's something that I think every district knows that there's obviously it's extraordinarily important, but being able to pass through all the red tape set by the state in order to kind of provide those experiences for students can be challenging. And, ed tech is really a viable solution. I think sometimes the biggest challenge for school districts is really having individuals kind of have that exposure or experience or realizing. Because I've been a superintendent for nearly 9 years and a couple of different environments. And I will say, I think coming to a small district, I think there's most people probably don't understand the wealth of opportunities that are available to by being able to partner with either other school districts or other organizations or whatever it may be. But for Columbia, we've been able to realize a lot with what we have. And to give you an idea, like I live down in the Modesto area, so I commute on up to the Sierra Nevada foothills.
So, sorry, so before you give the example, just to set the stage, I mean, just make sure I understand things correctly. So I've spoken with a number of similar sized districts, and there's a challenge with the funding, right? Where it's how do you get a critical mass of funding? And so you mentioned, career pathways, CTE, for example, in a large district, you've got CTE programs that span, 15, 20 different programs.
Oh yeah.
It's impossible with a 500 student district to fund that many different types of programs. And so, giving exposure to all of those different career pathways, I think is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exposure isn't, for me, it's always about the exposure piece as opposed to like mastery. I think sometimes people want to get to go from step A to Z immediately, when sometimes we really need to see how our students are actually responding to what they're getting the chance to, participate in. So like, for example, one thing I think sometimes is also being a little bit more efficient or smarter with how we spend our dollars, right? Obviously there's not going to be an infinite amount, and especially with what's probably on the horizon, it's going to be a little bit more challenging as well. But, we have this relationship with Elevate K12, where we are trying to create what's kind of considered a blended co-taught environment. So even though we may have like a properly credentialed instructor that's giving some virtual instruction, I have my own teachers that are there to kind of help reinforce what is actually they're being taught. So now we're going to be able to offer computer science, world languages, robotics, and a few other, even high school credit classes.
Right.
These are things that are now available because we decided to be a little bit more targeted and purposeful with what we want to invest in.
So you're leveraging the ability to effectively parachute an expert into the classroom via virtual, but then augmenting it with your actual in-classroom teachers. So,
and what's important with that is because I want them at whatever experience they have at the middle school level, that kind of carries on with purpose or, with intent. And when they kind of go to the high school setting. So now having, again, past like the red tape and the bureaucracy about what the state, constitutes a credentialed person. Now that what we're actually doing can have that meaning, like beyond when they transition to like Sonora High School. So at least they have something that kind of gives them a leg up on, where those particular pathways are at. So it's now it's recognized.
Yeah. What about collaboration with other districts that, that are similar to yours and both for purchasing as well as just rolling out programs and collaborating on programs together?
Yeah. And I'm always a big fan of being able to kind of share out, resources or experiences. Cause obviously I think wherever you're at, not everyone's able to get exposed to the same things. Like not everyone's coming here to this wonderful opportunity, but there's definitely a lot to take from it and give back and help connect with everyone else. I think sometimes where potentially the biggest challenges can come in my experience, and even now, is it always depends on where each particular district or LEA, find themselves, not just financially, but also philosophically. What do they really envision for their students as well? Because, and I think that's always the biggest hurdle first is like, what do we want, for students to accomplish throughout their tenure?
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. You had some really good positive results, both in ELA and math scores by the state, and I saw you were very proud of your attendance record as well. Yeah. I mean, what's behind that? What are the things that you've done to get those kinds of results?
Everywhere I've been at, we've had like the same type of results where we've closed the achievement gaps. We've been moving forward in all the respective state indicators. Our enrollment is up nearly 20%. Our ADAs at
just good leadership. Your presence.
Well, that's my joke. I was getting to the point whenever they ask me, it's like, that's leadership. But I think what always starts first is like having that honest conversation with all your respective educational partners about what we want.
Yeah.
I always like to caution people. We don't wake up to initiate change because we're bored. Mm-hmm. We do it because this is actually what everyone's identifying as the biggest need at the point, at that moment. And for me, it's like when you even start with little bits of change and people see a return, or again, the follow through from leadership and the support, then you kind of build capital to kind of embark upon those other changes. But, we're very proud that not only on all these respective indicators, enrollment trends and all that good stuff, but we're also fully credentialed. We're fully staffed, credentialed. We have full-time music, art, PE teachers, and literacy and math interventionists. And that's something that even schools that are not geographically disadvantaged can claim. And we definitely have a lot of people that are excited to be a part of Columbia and come to us.
Right. Well, you're here at this conference, which is the ASU+GSV.
Yes.
So the GSV side of that has a partnership with Google. So you're a GSV Google fellow.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and what is just about the program and what your part in that program is going to be?
It's really an opportunity for a number of K-12 leaders to come together and really discuss strategies, really to strategically implement ed tech to kind of solve all of our particular issues, whatever it may be. And I really appreciate the fellowship and especially, Abby Pryor and Dr. Chris Layers, where they have just been absolute resources, and what we've been able to accomplish, with, what we're calling the Opportunity Hub to bring in Elevate K12 and have this environment has really been because of the partnership with them. And they're just always so eager to really make sure that we're able to connect with other people to make sure that whatever we want to see reality actually becomes that. And it's something I really encourage for everyone that if they're experiencing challenges or they really want to bolster what they have for what they have with ed tech, accessibility, availability, or proper use, this is an excellent opportunity to do so. And I'm glad to have been a part of it, and I'm very excited to continue it with their K12 leadership collaborative, which will be a fun opportunity as that gets rolling. But I can't highly recommend it enough.
It's great to hear such good feedback on the program. I also wanted to, we have to talk about AI, of course.
Yes.
The lead up into this was the AI show. If you were here last year, I just found it very interesting because it was the topic du jour. And I kind of compare it to, early 2000s when cell phones started being introduced. And I contrast sort of the reception of AI to the reception of cell phones. And I just had this view of, here we have, the cell phone, the greatest learning tool in the history of the world, and it's banned at our learning institutions by and large. This time around, we've had AI. There's certainly some fear around it, but I think by and large, the administrators in education are viewing it as something to be embraced but responsibly, and creating policies and things like that. Yet there's still a big challenge of getting buy-in, and you maybe have maybe a year ago, I think we were at the point where no, AI is just used for cheating on essays. What have you done around, getting buy-in from your administrators and teachers, and just thoughts on using it within your district?
We're doing it very slowly and very intentionally. And I think always the first step with everything is really kind of building up that understanding or awareness of what it is and how it can be properly used. So right now we are, all my staff, all of them. So whoever receives a W-2 is part of this training opportunity where we partner with AI for Education, led by the incredible Amanda Bickerstaff. And they're doing a wonderful job at really, I think, changing the mindset of where my staff are at, where now we actually have I say about half of my staff are regularly using it in positive ways, to really kind of help, supplement their instruction. But them getting exposed has changed the conversation about what our long-term goals or ambitions actually are for it. So for example, right now, what's been one of my goals because we have a 30-minute enrichment period where it's an opportunity for our interventionists to meet, have caseloads, and our teachers to meet with students who might need some extra attention, but we're still leaving some students out. So the conversations about what can we really provide that gives students, like based off their performance data with local monitoring instruments or summative assessments, to give them an adaptive stack of activities that allows them that they're not kind of being left behind. They're still being challenged at that level, or give them an acceleration opportunity, let's say. Right. But that conversation would not have happened if the training and the conversations weren't already happening. And I think sometimes the training is something that gets incredibly overlooked. I think it happened when people were moving one-to-one because they just wanted to throw devices, and by osmosis, somehow people would be, technologically literate. Right. But I remember 2 years ago at the ASA, they brought in some retired superintendents from when the internet came into our buildings, into schools. And one of the things that they cautioned everyone was that they really regretted that they kind of pushed back against it as long as they did, where there were opportunities for training, infrastructure, and everything else. And they just always think about what it could have been if schools more readily brought in, like imagine where digital citizenship would be at this moment in time if that was an emphasis starting back in the mid-late 90s and early 2000s.
Right. So what are you doing to get buy-in from your teachers? And I guess, what tools are you seeing them using, in their work or in the classroom?
So one of the things is we hosted in the fall a couple of regional opportunities where we brought in people from AI for Education, ISTE, Teach Ally, Teach FX, and a few others, where we're trying to kind of expose everyone about what are all these different things that can happen. And from there, having a conversation with staff, we want to have a structured layout in terms of PD and training. And there we kind of been gradually having people become a little bit more accustomed, whether it's the essentials, right? ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, but then Notebook LM is becoming a quick favorite for people, especially in being able to kind of consolidate large chunks of information for students that may need kind of the large bullet points of something that may be, behind a particular theme, lesson, or whatever it may be. But now we're having the conversation of trying to get companies that can offer that specific solution towards what we need. So again, the enrichment is one, but also trying to find a different program like Teach Ally, for example, that can really help provide some supplemental lessons that actually support what the core lesson is from the adopted curriculum. So it doesn't go off in a different way. It kind of has something that allows for, let's say, reteachable moments. Right.
It's always been a challenge in the core courses to be able to bring something in that's supplemental, that's easy to implement, that shows kids the relevance. So I have to say, your district is very lucky to have you. I mean, for a small district, you've just got, just the number of different companies that you're and vendors that you're working with and organizations. It's just bringing a giant knowledge base to your district. I really appreciate you doing that podcast. I just one of the things I like to wrap up with is just a message of positivity, and just something that's that I think we've touched on a few of the things, but anything you want to leave us with in terms of the future or your district, or things that are happening in your outlook.
I'm very fortunate to be in the place that I'm at. They're very kind and considerate towards me. And one of the recurring things I always like to share with not just everyone in my district, but those around me is change is hard, but it's easier together. And obviously we're going to be seeing a lot of change coming up, and we can either respond in silos, or we can kind of have a concerted effort in what's going to be the best outcome for our students and our families. Because I think there's going to be a lot of expectations for us to deliver, and we absolutely should. And again, we're here for the kids. That's as simple as it gets, and that's always what drives me. And that's what we should be.
I'd love to hear that. Well, thank you for taking the time today. Really appreciate it, and wish you the best of luck.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening. If you found this conversation valuable, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. We will see you next time on Decode.